on, church. Worship the Lord. All creation says He's worthy. Let's join Him.
I was lost in shame, could not get past my blame until He called my name. I'm so glad He changed me. Darkness held me down, but Jesus pulled me out. I'm no longer bound. I'm so glad He changed me. See, I'm now a new creation in Christ. The old has gone, there's new life. I live by faith, not by sight. There is a new name written down in glory, and it's mine. Yes, it's mine. I met the author of my story, and he's mine. Yes, he's mine. Sin had left me blind, but Jesus opened my eyes. Now I can see the light. I'm so glad He changed me. Now I'm walking free. I've got the victory. See, it's all over me. I'm so glad He changed me. See, I'm now a new creation in Christ. The old has gone, there's new life. I live by faith, not by sight. There is a new name written down in glory, and it's mine. Yes, it's mine. I met the author of my story, and he's mine. Yes, he's mine. There is a new name written down in glory, and it's mine. Yes, it's mine. I met the author of my story, and he's mine. Yes, he's mine.
Come on, church,
I am who I am because the I am tells me who
Come on.
I am. I am who I am because the I am tells me who I
Proclaim
am.
it.
I am who I am because the I am tells me who I am. I am who I am because the I am tells me who I am. I am who I am because the I am tells me who I am. I am who I am because the I am tells me who I am. I am who I am because the I am tells me who I am. I am who I am because the I am tells me who I am. There is a new name written down in glory, and it's mine. Yes, it's mine. I met the author of my story, and he's mine. Yes, he's mine. There is a new name written down in glory, and it's mine. Yes, it's mine. I met the author of my story, and he's mine. Yes, he's
I've anchored
mine.
in Jesus. I've anchored in Jesus. The storms of life I brave. I've anchored in Jesus. I've been in the wave. I've anchored in Jesus. For He hath died to save. I've anchored in the right of ages. I've anchored in Jesus. The storms of life I brave. I've anchored in Jesus. I've been in the wave. I've anchored in Jesus. For He hath died to save. I've anchored in the right
Good morning, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're staying safe, staying healthy. Hope the last few days have been good to you. I'm Pastor Zach. I'm the Family Ministries pastor here at Point of Change. I'm chosen, I'm challenged, and I'm charged. And we've been going through a series called Way of the Archer. And so when you think about the Way of the Archer, you think of God or Jesus as the great archer. And so what he does is he pulls the arrow out, so chosen, and then he has the arrow in his hand, and he sharpens it, so that's challenged. And then charge is pulling it back and letting it go. And so today we're going to dive into that challenge, that second word in the chosen challenge charge section. We're going to dive into that, and I want to look at a scripture, and it's Jesus talking. And so it's in John, it's chapter 15, and it's verses 1 through 8. And so we're going to go through it slow, and we're going to break it down, and I kind of want to dive into it a little deeper because it's really helps explain this challenged mentality, this challenged idea that we're talking about here. And so John 15, verses 1 through 8, and it starts out, it says, I am the true vine. And remember, this is Jesus talking. So I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. And so I want to take a look at that word prunes. And so I want to define that. So the definition of pruning or to prune is to trim a tree or a shrub by cutting away dead or overgrown branches or stems, especially to increase fruitfulness and growth. And so right there you see that. The connection it's talking about, that's a great word for what we're talking about when it comes to challenged. And so it talks about the true vine. Jesus is the true vine. The Father, the gardener, talks about being fruitful. And so Jesus is saying here that God prunes us. So he's doing that. He's pruning us. He's cutting away the dead stuff. Or, and what we're talking about, because we're in the way of the archer, right? And so what we're talking about is the arrow. And so that challenge part, Jesus has the arrow in his hand, and he's sharpening it. So that pruning is that sharpening. And it's to make us more effective and to be fruitful for building the kingdom. And so I would say effective and fruitful and leading effectively and fruitful kind of go hand in hand. And so that's what it's talking about there. And that's even our phrase when it comes to challenged, is it's everyone is challenged to grow deep and lead effectively. And so fruitful and being fruitful for the kingdom and that being leading effective and growing deep, it all goes hand in hand. It's all connected there. But here's the thing, is that we have to kind of set this. We have to frame it. We got to kind of put a box around it and kind of see what it looks like. And so kids, teenagers, adults, I want you to kind of listen up, and I want you to kind of listen to what I'm about to talk about, because there's some questions that I'm going to pose that are kind of going to frame this pruning and what God is sharpening or the challenge, okay? And so first I want to talk about how many of us have attitudes, behaviors, mindsets, and when I say behaviors, I mean things that we do, and mindsets, things that we think about, the way we see things, the way we think about things, right? And so how many of us have those things that are like overgrown plants that need to be cut away, they need to be pruned? So like a bad attitude at work, or a bad attitude at school. I don't want to go to school. I don't like school. I don't want to go to work. I don't like work. Or how about a bad attitude towards our parents? They're just always so demanding of me. Or they always have something for me to do. Or I just don't like having to follow the rules. Or how about a bad attitude toward our children? They just never listen to what I'm trying to teach them. They're always complaining about something. Or how about behaviors? Maybe behaviors that aren't helpful, like gossip, which means just talking behind other people's back, talking bad about people when they're not around. Or how about being overdramatic? Or how about lying? Lying. And like when we're talking about lying, there's like that idea of lying, like little white lies, where we tell them here and there to help kind of shape and shift everything in the big picture and everything so it benefits us. Or how about throwing a fit? And I know kids, teenagers that are watching, you think I'm talking to you. And yes, kids and teenagers throw fits, and it happens. But adults, I'm talking to you too because I've seen adults throw massive fits. Now, I have never done that ever in my life. Never. Not once. But I've seen other adults who have thrown really big tantrums. So fit throwing. How about the mindset? So what about our prideful mindset? Right? Thinking that we're better than people, thinking that we don't need to ever apologize for anything. How about being critical of others? And so when I say critical of others, it means we kind of pick them apart. We pick out all the negative things. We pick out all the bad things they do. We make sure that everybody knows that they messed up, right? Or they're not good at something. So the critical things. How about being opinionated or argumentative? So we always got something to say about something, about somebody at that one time, at that one place. And we're always looking for an argument. Or how about just plain not being nice? I don't know how many times I've seen kids, teenagers, and adults who just can't be nice. They're just not nice to people. What about this idea of a selfish mindset where everything is about us? It's about my happiness and my value, and everything revolves around us. What about racism, apathy, laziness, manipulation, jealousy? Are any of these kind of ringing a bell? You see, we all can identify with things in our lives that need pruned. God needs to sharpen them. He's got to come in. He's the gardener. He's got to take them out. He's got to cut them away. That is the sharpening of the arrow. And so we go back to that verse in John, those verses in John, and it says, "You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. Remain in me as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me." And so this is really, really important. Kids, teenagers, adults, I need you to listen to this, all right? This is very, very important. No arrow will ever be sharpened if it does not remain in the great archer's hands, in Jesus' hands. Remember, he pulls the arrow out and then puts the arrow in his hands to sharpen it. And this is talking about being connected to Jesus, staying connected to Jesus. We have to stay in Jesus' hands so he can sharpen us. The challenge is there while he's doing the sharpening. If we don't do that, it's not going to happen. And so then we go on into the verses, and it says this: "I am the vine." Remember, this is Jesus talking. "I am the vine. You are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned." So let me break this down, this part of the verses to you. If we refuse to be sharpened, we refuse to let God choose us and then challenge us, and he's sharpening us. If we refuse the sharpening, then we will be a blunt arrow. If the arrow isn't sharpened, it's going to be blunt, which means it's not going to work. It's not going to be sharp. It's not going to hurt. It's not going to, when you poke your finger, it's not going to do anything. You're not going to feel it, okay? And so what do you think happens to a blunt arrow? I mean, kids, teenagers, what do you think Hawkeye would do from the Avengers if he pulled an arrow out and it was blunt? It wasn't going to do what it meant to do. He's not going to use it. He's going to throw it to the side. He's not going to use it. Or he's going to go charge it, right? We talk about pulling it back and charge. He's going to charge and shoot it, and it's going to bounce right off of its target. And that's not good either. And so that's what happens. And so I need you to listen to me. Listen to me, church. Listen to me, friends. Everyone that's at home. When the challenge comes, when the sharpening begins, when the sharpening is happening, it can be painful. And it can be unpleasant at times. I totally get it. When I was 19 years old, I was thinking I had it figured out. Believe it or not, at 19, I had it all figured out. You just invite people to church, and once you invite them to church, the kids pastor or the youth pastor or the lead pastor is going to get them saved. He's going to tell them about Jesus. They're going to find Jesus at church somehow, some way, and that's how it's going to work. And so that's what I thought. And then Jesus showed up, the great archer, and he's like, hey, about to do some sharpening here. And he said, look, it's your responsibility to tell the gospel, the good news about Jesus to your friends and your family. Every member is a minister. We love that here at POC. And so you're supposed to be doing that. And I was like, whoa, wait. God, come on now. Like, that sounds like a lot more work. And that kind of takes me out of my comfort zone. And that puts a lot on my shoulders where I could just invite them to every fun thing and just make the church sound really pretty and fun. And then they could, meet Jesus there somewhere. But he's like, no, you can't do that. That's not how that works. And I was like, okay, fine. All right. I'll let the sharpening start happening, right? And then somewhere down the road, it was like, oh, by the way, you're going to go back to school. And I was like, what? Can you run that by me again? He's like, yeah, I want you to go back to school because you got some things you got to learn. And I want some sharpening to happen there. And I want you to learn some things and grow deeper and so that you can lead effectively. And I was like, God, I don't like school. I'm like, there's a reason why I got out of high school and then I did a little bit of college and that didn't work. And God, I got a lot going on. I got a family. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm in ministry. I'm working a full-time job. I'm like, God, hey, school doesn't sound like it's going to be for me. And plus, I don't like to read. It's not fun for me. He's like, no, you need to go back to school. You need to go to school. There's some sharpening that needs to happen there. I was like, all right, I can do that. And he's like, oh, by the way, while you're there, while you're doing this, you got to learn to admit that you're wrong. And I was like, oh, wait a second. I was on board with the first two. I was like, okay, we can figure this out. But when that sharpening really started going, and he said, you got to learn to admit you're wrong. And I was like, whoa, that's cutting me deep. He's like, yeah, there's times where you just need to be humble and you need to admit that you're wrong. And oh, by the way, you got some opinions that are deep-rooted in there, and they're not filtered through my word. Not at all, not even one bit. So you need to get rid of those. You got to toss those out. And that procrastination habit that you have, that's going to mess you up. So we need to sharpen you up and get rid of that. And and I was like, okay, all right, so I get it. The challenges, God's sharpening, some of these things are really deep rooted and things that we do and things that, are even part of us, our identity almost. And so that challenge, man, it can get at us. And when the God is like, hey, look, you like to vent about your problems, which venting just means I like to complain about, what just happened. But you don't really like to confront them. You don't like to go to somebody and just confront them and do it the way I said to do it. It's like, okay, yeah, what's wrong with that? Well, I need to sharpen you some more. There's challenge here, right? And so I get it. The sharpening, the challenge. Sometimes it's unpleasant. Sometimes it's painful. But you see, the thing is that there is joy. Listen, there is joy to be found on the other side of the sharpening, of the challenge. Imagine if I never would have gone back to school. I would have never learned the things that I learned while I was doing it. The late nights staying up and trying, making sure that I managed the time that I had, that God had given me. And learning those skills and learning the skills I was learning in my classes and growing deeper, closer to God and learning to lead effectively through what he was sharpening through that, right? And imagine I would have missed out on the joy that came with graduating. I just graduated. And so I have a bachelor's degree, which I never thought I would ever say, ever. In my mind, I wasn't ever going back. And so I have a bachelor's degree from college and the joy and the accomplishment that comes from that, but I would never have experienced that if I would have halfway through said, you know what, this is too tough. I got too many things going on. It's making life stressful, and I can't do with the sharpening right now, God. I would have missed out on that joy. And that's the thing, is that too many times we decide it's not worth it, and we give up in the middle of the sharpening. Imagine, we know David, King David of Israel, right? David goes against Goliath. But imagine if David looked at Goliath and said, nope, it ain't gonna happen. You see that guy over there? You see that dude? I am not going out there to fight him. That dude, he looks like the Hulk, just without the green skin color. I'm not doing it. Imagine if David would have gone and said that. What would have happened? David, if he would have done that, he would have never experienced the joy of defeating Goliath. And he would have never experienced the joy of God's victory and God's favor on him. God showing favor and God giving him the victory and all that God taught him in that moment. And you know what? He would have never then made it to be king of Israel, the joy that God had set out for him to be king of Israel. And so there is joy to be found on the other side of the sharpening. And Romans chapter 5, verses 3 and 4 says this, "Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope." And perseverance just means we keep going. We keep going. We keep going with it. We don't give up in the middle of it. And it produces character, good character traits, like being kind and gentle and compassionate and loving, the fruit of the Spirit. And then James, it says this, James chapter 1, verses 2 through 4. "Consider it pure joy." There's that word, joy. "Pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds," challenges. God's sharpening us, challenging us. "Because you know that testing of your faith produces perseverance." There's that word again, perseverance, sticking it out. "Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." We must allow the sharpening to happen. So let's go back. Let's go back to the main passage that we're talking about, where Jesus is talking in John. And kids, teens, adults that are watching online, I want you to listen to this part, because there's some good things that are about to happen here, okay? And so it says, "If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples." And so discipleship, small groups, leadership development, I know some of those are big words, but all of these things help sharpen us. Think about it, okay? Here we go. Jesus, he's got his disciples, right? They were the 12 that hung out with him. They lived with him. They walked with him. For 3 years, they were with him all the time, learning from him, right? And so they watched him do miracles. He healed people. He cast out evil spirits, right? He took a little bit of nothing and fed thousands of people, all right? And that was just a couple of the things, but they were watching him do this. They watched him as he interacted with the crowds and had compassion on them, and how he interacted with them, which was different than a lot of the other people did. They listened to him teach parables, and they listened to him preach, and parables were like stories. And sometimes those parables were directed right at them. Like they followed up right after the disciples had done something, and Jesus was like, "Hey, look, I got to teach you something here, all right?" And so he taught them, and told this story to help them develop them, help them grow. And so Jesus gave them tasks. He gave them responsibilities. He let them do works in his name. The relationship between Jesus and his disciples was leadership development at its best. He was sharpening them so that they would grow deep and lead effectively when he was gone. And so that was what was going on in that moment when he was with his disciples and Jesus was talking and teaching and all those things. He was challenging them. He was sharpening them. You see, there is purpose to the sharpening, to the challenge. It is all purposeful and beneficial, and it will continue throughout our entire lives. And so there is purpose behind it. We have to stick it out. We got to find the joy that comes on the other side, and we have to get comfortable with the sharpening. And so there's a phrase that Pastor Todd kind of coined, and now the staff has brought it on, but it originated with Pastor Todd, and it's hashtag. All right, so it's always a phrase that we say, but it's hashtag improving is my favorite. All right, and so, but the thing is that phrase, it is so true, and it really ties all this up in a nice bow for us, right? Because we must become comfortable in the sharpening. We need to tattoo that on our forehead so that every time we're doing something, every time God shows up and says, "Look, kiddo, you got to stop lying because it's not good and you're not going to be fruitful and you're not going to be effective for building the kingdom," then we let that sharpening happen. And when he shows up and God is like, look, teenager, you got to stop with the drama because it's not doing anything. It's not helping anybody. And you got to stop thinking that everything is about you and the whole world revolves around you. And he says, hey, adult, look, you can't throw massive tantrums and think that that is okay because you didn't get your way or something didn't get said the right way or you think something should be different. You don't get to do that. I need to sharpen you more. And that's what challenge is all about. Discipleship, small groups, leadership development, finding the joy on their side, being comfortable in the sharpening, resting in God's hands, in Jesus' hands, the great archer, so he can sharpen us. So I want to pray with you, and I want you to think about what kind of arrow you're going to be. We talked earlier, I mentioned about it, the blunt arrow versus the sharp arrow. Hawkeye, man, when he pulls that arrow out, if it's blunt, he's either going to toss it to the side or he's going to shoot it and charge it and it's going to bounce off, right? But that sharp arrow, the one that God is sharpening, the challenged, it's going to hit where it needs to go and it's going to go and be useful. And so I want you to think about that. God wants to challenge us. He wants to prune us. He wants to sharpen us. We just need to decide if we're going to let him. Dear Heavenly Father, God, I thank you so much for my friends. God, I thank you for your son, Jesus, God, who died on the cross for us, for our sins, God. And I thank you that you don't leave us, God, that you don't leave us in this messy part, but God, that you sharpen us and you challenge us. And God, you prune us and you help us with all of the things that aren't part of what you created us to be. And so, God, I pray that we would just lean in. And God, every time you say, hey, you got to get rid of that attitude, that bad attitude. And every time you say, hey, you got to stop talking bad about your parents. And you got to stop talking bad about your kids. And you got to stop talking bad about this. And every time you have those things, those conversations with God, that we would lean in and we would make sure that we know that improving is our favorite because it's your favorite and you love to do it with us, God. So we thank you. We love you. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Zach. I really think, Pastor Todd, that you're going to need to trademark that whole hashtag improving is my favorite because I really see that taking off. Good morning, POC. I am Pastor Karin. I am our campus pastor at POC Bloomington. And just like every one of you, I am chosen, challenged, and charged. These last few weeks, we've been exploring that mission, that call that God has laid at our feet to be an everyone church, a place where we know that everyone is chosen, everyone is challenged, everyone is charged, and where we feel the responsibility to help people learn how to live in that journey and how to live out that journey. And this goal is a fantastic thing, but part of this journey that we're on, we recognize needs to involve some strategy. You know, God starts us all with goals. He starts us with missions. But my guess is you have learned what I have learned through the years. Goals aren't enough. Setting the goal is the place you start, but setting the goal isn't enough. Otherwise, those New Year's resolutions that we start every January 1 with would be successful every single time. But they're not. And too often, the reason they're not is because we haven't taken that time to strategize, to develop a plan. How am I going to lose that weight? How am I going to read more or watch less TV or spend more time with my friends, more time with my family, whatever it is? And so because we want to be successful, we feel that burden of responsibility from the Lord to be a chosen, challenged, charged church. One of the things we've done is develop a strategy to help us as we plan future sermon series and events, as we help our ministries focus on where they're going. We've developed a strategy to help us do that, to lead us in this chosen, challenged, charged journey. And part of this is what we're calling the POC Discipleship Pathway and Calendar that you can see right there. And it's a guideline that helps us as we plan to make sure we're focusing in all these areas. You notice we've divided the calendar year into 3 trimesters, a chosen, a challenged, and a charged trimester, each one focused on a different part of the journey. And then it's broken up with some fun mini terms. We also want to practice that great principle of stress and release, that push and relax, where you spend some time focusing and digging deep, but then also some time relaxing relaxing. It's that same reason when you go to the gym, every day is not leg day. Otherwise, you burn out those leg muscles. You got to break it up with some arm days. So we're breaking up times of deep digging and deep pursuit of the Lord with some fun times to enjoy in fellowship. And I want to share just a little bit of that strategy with you. I want to walk through this morning the chosen part of it, which we talked about last week, and the challenge part that Pastor Zach shared this morning. Our first mini term in the chosen journey is our August mini term. We're in it right now. It's the Way of the Archer mini term. And there are several different elements that may pop up any given August. We'll probably have a Vision Sunday in there. One of the great things that we know, whether it's a business or a church or an individual, is you stay focused on your goal when you remind yourself of it from time to time. So August, we're going to take a break and we're going to remind ourselves of what our vision is. We'll likely have a back to school celebration. We've got some of those coming up in just a few weeks. At our Mahomet campus on Sunday, August 23rd, there's going to be a back to school event. And our Bloomington campus, it's going to be Saturday, August 29th. Be watching Facebook for more details on both of those events. In future years, this will be the time when we do membership classes, membership renewals. We may have a Sabbath Sunday, a prayer or healing initiative. In fact, we're beginning a prayer initiative coming up next week as we prepare to launch our new campus, POC Mahomet. And there will be a discipleship class starting specifically. It's called the Alongsider, and we'll have more details on that coming up. That's our August mini term. And that leads us into our chosen trimester, which will run from September to November. One of the things that we're most excited about is that this trimester is going to feature the return of our Catalyst events, starting with Encounter. Now, if you're familiar with POC, and I say Encounter, your blood is already starting to pump because you know what an exciting event that is. But if you're new to POC, I encourage you to begin looking at the calendar early November. We're going to have this incredible event designed to help you deepen your relationship with God in a really kind of intensive format. It's an exciting adventure. Again, it's coming up in November. We'll have more details to come. But that's part of that chosen concept, getting us deeper, more intimate and belonging experience that we have with God. We'll have some all-church small groups beginning in early October, joining in the fellowship together as we all study the book of Colossians. Some fun fellowship events. We'll be having some trunk or treats at both of our campuses, trunk or treat at Bloomington and actually a fall festival at our Mahomet campus. And then again, that discipleship class that I mentioned will be kicking off with its first book called Growing Strong. That's our chosen term, and hopefully you can hear how those things do focus on that idea of intimacy and belonging with God and with others. Not that we don't think about challenged or charged during the fall months, but we're really going to make sure that we're spending time on that chosen idea so that people have a good, solid understanding of what it means to be chosen. That leads us into our next mini term, which is December, right? Christmas, Advent, a great time to just pause and celebrate all things that we love about the coming of Christ. And some of these things, if you've been around POC for a while, you may recognize some of these features that we'll bring up over the holiday season. Our Christmas open house. Sometimes, some years we do a Christmas communion. We have a Christmas Sunday some years. Other years, we do a Christmas Eve service. We often have a Sabbath Sunday. We take the Sunday between Christmas and New Year's as a time to spend with family, to spend just really soaking in all that God has for us before we begin the new year. And instead of a Vision Sunday, our December mini term is going to focus more on kind of a year-end Sunday, celebrating what God has done that year and what God is preparing to do. There may be a prayer initiative some years. All of these are just options, but ways, again, for us to just celebrate, relax, have fun, and enjoy all that God has during that Christmas season. The first of the year kicks off our challenged trimester, and that runs from January through March. And as you heard Pastor Zach say, that challenged part, that's the sharpening, that's the growing part. It's about God honing us and shaping us, what we call discipleship. Now, again, discipleship is something we do all year long. We don't say, we only do discipleship from January through March. But it is during this season when we're going to focus on helping people either develop or maybe return to a habit of growing deeper with God. We're going to offer our second Catalyst event during this trimester. It's called Out of the Box. Encounter, that event transforms your relationship with God. Out of the box, that will transform your relationship with people. It is phenomenal. I am convinced it should be required to be a human being. It is that great. You should have to take it before you can go to school, before you can get married, before you can have children. Basically, before you can interact with a human being, you should have to go through this because it's that transformational. It really does help just completely flip your relationships upside down in the most positive, healthy way possible. So if you've not had a chance to go through it, I encourage you, keep early 2021 free on your calendar because that's an event you definitely want to be a part of. We'll have another round of small groups that occur during this trimester, but instead of focusing on all of us enjoying a book of the Bible together, this will be the time where we can pick those individual areas where we really feel drawn to grow deeper. There may be a group focused on, learning some habits of how to overcome sinful traits, overcome those sinful tendencies, those sinful habits. There may be a group of people who are really passionate about getting healthy, holy finances. And so Dave Ramsey or Financial Peace University. There may be a group for how to parent like Jesus would parent. All those different deep topics that we can enjoy in our group. So many options, and I'm really excited because that's going to be a lot of fun. It's during this trimester that we may have a revival, maybe even coupled with a season of fasting. If you're not familiar with that term revival, it usually involves a speaker coming in from outside the church, coming in and speaking for a series of days, often a Wednesday through a Sunday kind of thing. And so by coming and being in church, by listening to those messages for that many days, it really provides this awesome opportunity for God to help you, to help your family, even to help an entire church family experience breakthroughs in specific areas to really grow deep. Again, these are all different options, but I'm hoping you can see the challenged focus in this area. And all of this strategy is designed to help us be intentional in being a chosen, challenged, charged church. Because we know that at the end of it, there is a purpose. There's a reason God has commissioned us to do this. It's because he wants us to improve the lives of people in our community by cultivating transformative relationships, by creating opportunities for these relationships that change us, change our relationship with God, changing our relationship with other people. And those changes compel us, encourage us, motivate us, both as individuals and as a group, to grow and to act, to make changes, to live out that chosen, challenge, charged journey. That's just a snapshot of our strategy. There'll be a little more next week as we talk about charge. And I know that for some of you, strategy is exciting. And this is one way that it just motivates you even more, and it deepens that passion you have for God's ministry here at POC. I know strategy doesn't stir everybody up, though. So my hope, though, is that by remembering what the win is, by remembering where this strategy is taking us, that every single one of us can leave this morning with our hearts pumping. Would you join us as we worship? Let's keep our hearts pumping.
Speak to me. You're the only voice I want to hear. Walk with me. Show me who you are as I draw near. If you're not in it, then I don't want it. Let all else fade away. Take the whole world, give me Jesus. Let all else fade away. Satisfied, you're the